Thought of like Homer Simpson going like all crazy. Man, I was thinking to myself, this is what happens when the librarians are tired of people not being quiet in the library, so they open the Necronomicon and turn to demons, start attacking people. Be quiet!
Absolutely. Wrath of the Librarians, confirmed.
Yeah, probably better than Wrath of the Titans. Man, I gotta say, I like how you said when we were watching this movie how this is definitely one of the best silent movies ever.
Yeah, definitely, in recent memory, one of the best silent films.
Better than The Artist.
Amen. I couldn't agree more.
Okay, so hi, welcome to End Credit Reviews, on episode of After the Credits on End Credit Reviews. This is Tyler from End Credit Reviews.
And Steven from Steven Lawson Studios.
Yes, and this is our movie on A Quiet Place. Now, what's funny is that a lot of people really want to go see this movie. We tried to go to the 7:20 showing, but they sold out by the time we got there, so we had to go to the next showing. Mm-hmm. And yeah, now we're here late at night giving our 2 cents on it.
And we'll have to be somewhat quiet because it's late. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, really. Okay. So pretty much A Quiet Place is a horror movie where basically a group of a family have to try to stay in isolation in a very secluded area and have to be as quiet as possible. Now, apparently, we've seen through various newspaper covers and various exposition that's subtly shown in the background how there's various monsters that have come to Earth and they kill a lot of people, of course, and the main thing that they're attracted to is sound. These monsters can't see, they're not visual creatures, they are phonetic or phonotic,
Yeah, I think it's phonetic.
Yeah, basically they detect, mainly rely on sound for terms of, like being able to try to figure out where things are in that.
Right, audible.
Yeah. Now, what makes this movie interesting is that the movie is not only the lead star is John Krasinski, but the movie was also directed by John Krasinski as well.
That's right.
Yeah, I gotta say that what's funny between this and Get Out, that was written and directed by Jordan Peele, I gotta say is there going to be a new trend in Hollywood where comedians are going to write very critically acclaimed horror movies? Because I'm just wondering what Kevin Hart's going to turn out.
Oh, man. I have no idea. I kind of shudder to think what that actually would end up being because, at least with these two, it kind of seemed to work. But with Kevin Hart, it just, I don't know. I think that's a case where don't give him some ideas or we might have to suffer through him not staying in his lane.
That would be hilarious if he made some kind of masterpiece. Maybe his horror movie would be a bunch of tall people have taken over.
Yep. The Tallest is what it's called.
Yeah, Shadow of the Colossus. Yeah, that would be good.
That would.
But I gotta say, the master of some guy who makes comedy stuff but turns out real horror movies is Adam Sandler.
Yes.
Yeah, and not in like good horror movies, just horrifying to endure and sit through.
Unintentional horror. That's right. Yes.
Yeah,
kind of like audience.
Yeah, kind of like how what was that movie? The Happening was kind of like an unintentional funny movie.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's hilarious. All right, so basically in this movie itself, now what makes it stand out as well is that the two main leads in this movie, played by John Krasinski and Emily Blunt, are married in real life. I heard that originally there was going to be another lead actress in this movie, but Emily Blunt insisted that to John Krasinski, her husband, that she also wanted to play the wife in the movie as well.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's true. And also, I guess worth mentioning is, let's see.
Oh yeah, the kids.
Millicent Simmons. She is actually a deaf, in real life, actress, and she was, I think, first in the film Wonderstruck from last year. So this, I believe, is her second role, and it looks like she may have a career ahead of her in terms of like roles for the hearing impaired, which is very interesting because both stories have been around the fact that she is deaf. So
Yeah, I get you. I
and she
mean,
will never have the joy of hearing our podcast.
oh,
But
good thing there's subtitles and able to show on YouTube.
right.
But the thing is that going to that, I think it's interesting. It does add kind of authenticity to it, but I don't think you necessarily need a deaf person to play a deaf character in a movie. Just like how there's plenty of movies where an actor who's not blind has played a blind guy.
Sure, but you got to admit it makes it authentic.
Yeah, true. I mean,
So,
if the actors in this movie, which were by the way trained in sign language, then they should be able to know how to, act like a deaf individual
sure.
as well. But also, I think it's interesting too how if you look at IMDb, the cast for this movie is less than 10 people,
It's true.
which yeah, it's a pretty short, credited cast for a mainstream Hollywood movie, I gotta say. And the movie is paced very well when it comes to that regard because the movie does have a lot of tons of quiet scenes. However, there are times where the soundtrack does pick up and shows it. I mean, we actually hear it. We don't physically see the soundtrack.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, maybe in the background every time the creatures are coming, we hear like the guy who's doing the orchestra.
The score flare.
Yeah, like somewhere in the background. Yeah. But speaking of monsters and that, what'd you think of the monsters in this movie, Steven?
I thought they were pretty decent. I don't want to spoil too much about them, but they kind of had this weird avocado thing going on with their heads.
Wow, you look like You look like an avocado had sex with a more ugly and disgusting older avocado. Like it was kind of rough sex. Like there was problems with the relationship.
Did I say avocado?
Yeah,
That's my bad. I
remember from Deadpool.
Yes, I do remember that. Funny joke, but I meant to say artichoke. Artichoke is what I meant to say.
Okay, but that'd be kind of funny if they show that monster wherever it shows up on the internet, and I want to put the caption from Deadpool with T.J. Miller.
Yeah, they were interesting, and I think in some ways, without getting too detailed, the way that their arms looked was kind of similar to like the Cloverfield monsters.
Yeah, definitely.
So
I did like how at least the head looked pretty unique
it did.
and interesting, and how they showed how their big like ears, like when it came to like earlobe stuff and that, where you could hear them and that sort of thing.
It was like an exposed eardrum. Yeah, so like where our eardrum is inside of our heads, obviously. That grayish silver part that is the eardrum was exposable to these things.
Yeah, I thought
So-
that would be like a weak point, like they shoot them in the ears or something like that.
Right. Yeah, and I guess we can get on to the whole weakness part later because that was kind of important.
Yeah, we'll talk about spoilers later. But yeah, I mean, I do like how in the movie we actually do have moments where the characters kind of talk at a certain point where they know that no one can really hear them because they're pretty much in loud surroundings or in a soundproof area.
For sure.
In fact, the area where it's kind of soundproof did remind me of the book I Am Legend, where the character Robert Neville did try to make his house soundproof from the various vampires that would come up every night to harass him. And I was just thinking to myself, during that opening sequence where they show this abandoned town where it's all run down that, I was thinking to myself, man, I'm expecting that red Mustang from I Am Legend just drive by.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. I also like not just between the relationship between John Krasinski's character and Emily Blunt's character, because I mean it's not really acting if they're husband and wife in real life, in a way. I mean it kind of reminded me of Chris Hemsworth and the actress who he's married to in real life. They were husband and wife in the movie 12 Strong. But I gotta say, I really like the chemistry with the two main kids in this movie. How they basically did feel like a little bit like brother and sister, but they were kind of like opposites. Where the character of Marcus, played by Noah Jupe, is that how you pronounce the last name? Jope?
I would assume it's either Jupe or Jupe, something like that.
Something like that. And basically, I like how he's kind of a little bit more introverted and, does follow, authority and wants to survive. but then his sister Reagan, played by Mil- Millicent
Millicent. Yeah.
Millicent Simmons.
The deaf actress.
Yeah, she's definitely more headstrong, a little bit more defiant, and wants to take more risks in that.
Which seems counterintuitive, I guess, because she's the one who realistically should be super cautious because she can't even hear when everyone else can. But that was an interesting dynamic for her character for sure.
Yeah, and then now what's interesting is that there's one character in the movie we see him in the trailer, of course. He has less than 1 minute of screen time, known as Man in the Woods, played by Leon Rassoum. And Steve and I couldn't help but kind of crack a laugh when he looked like he was about to scream. Like his face was kind of more of a...
Yeah, he was revving up them windpipes, boy. Like, as if there was some doubt in John Krasinski's character's head, when he's telling him to keep quiet. He just and just like crinkles his face up and does like, have you seen the picture of like the toothless guy with his like lips puffed out like a puffer fish? It was totally like that, and it's just like, okay, that is the most clear I'm gonna yell at the top of my lungs face I've ever seen in my life.
I just love how I thought at that moment he's thinking to myself, man, I really want to break out into a hoedown right now. Because the way he looked with his beard and that and his hair, I wouldn't be surprised if he was about to, do like a hoedown or something.
Not to mention they were like pretty clearly in the country. Like,
yeah, perfect setting for that. Yeah,
yeah, I didn't actually catch where the location was. I don't think they gave a super clear depiction, but based on the like geography, it didn't look like anywhere around here. It looked a little more.
It kind of was kind of Midwest a little bit.
I was thinking actually probably like it's in the Midwest somewhere, but I was thinking probably pushing the East Coast a little bit.
Possibly.
Just because of the terrain. But in any case, that's kind of trivial.
Yeah, no. I mean, I just felt like, in a way, we're thinking of ourselves when Emily Blunt's character is pregnant with a child, and we're just thinking to ourselves, like, oh, how are you going to pull this one off?
Really? Like, what is the plan here, guys? Knock up the wife in a situation where you're not allowed to make a sound. Think for 2 seconds about how stupid that is.
And think about it. They're having sex. How do you not make any noise?
Sure, but like even in that case where it's like, oh, okay, at least the adults understand. The baby won't. And it's not that you can just keep that thing quiet for years unless you want to literally like keep it drugged 24/7, in which case it's going to have serious problems if it grows up. If it grows up being the key word.
I thought of a funny bad joke during this, but I thought it would be a good time to bring it up. So I guess it was safe to say when John Krasinski was done sleeping with Emily Blunt's character that after sex he smoked a blunt.
Yes, that was a good place joke. But yeah, boy, having a baby and being pregnant in that situation, top 10 worst decisions you could make. Like,
or like positions to be in. Oh, and on top of that, she also, before she gives birth, she accidentally steps on a nail in the stairway, and it's like you never really resolved that. Still standing up.
It is. It's clearly just sitting there with like a horrific blood stain around it. Like, I guess it's more pronounced at least. And like right before that, she clearly got her laundry bag stuck on something. So you would think, maybe to not be a dumbass, I should turn around and see what I caught my bag on so that this doesn't become an obstacle later and I make a sound.
Yeah, really. I'm willing to bet that CinemaSins will probably listen to this and plagiarize us.
Probably.
I mean, Screen Junkies has plagiarized some of my jokes on some of my videos with some of their Honest Trailer stuff. But anyway, besides the point, I will say that the part in the climax of the movie where these monsters are hunting the characters and they're basically in the silo where I guess there's various corn feed in that, and you're
Mhm.
saying like, nah, this is corny.
Exactly. That's literally what I said. And yeah, I mean, it overall, I guess, was a somewhat suspenseful sequence because they've got to make sound to stay afloat in the corn. And I thought the concept of like dying in a corn silo was kind of ridiculous, but apparently, lots of people who actually fall into like a full one, it's a very real risk because you just can't breathe, or you like breathe in the kernels based on the shape of the kernels in your nose. So lots of people who fall in there do die, and that seemed like a real risk. But then like something happened where basically the door fell in, and it kind of helped them stabilize themselves. But then they just used it as a barrier against something, and conveniently. With pressure applied to them based on this thing that I won't spoil, um, they they magically didn't sink, even though they were just sinking before of their own weight. So that was weird and didn't make sense to me. But yes, corny is an apt description overall of that particular sequence.
Yeah. Also, one thing I want to point out that we noticed, we were kind of surprised about, was that one of the producers of this movie is Michael Bay.
Yep, it looks like one of the primary ones, especially too.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting. I was thinking to myself, I'm kind of surprised that critics gave it such a high score because after, like, they probably were thinking to themselves, they probably didn't notice that Michael Bay was a producer, and they saw this, were like, oh, I
Right.
take back my positive review score.
Exactly. Pearl clutching commences in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Um,
Yeah. I
yeah.
also like how John Krasinski was a executive producer
Mm-hmm.
on this, which is kind of interesting. I mean, I was surprised that Michael Bay produced this, but then again, Michael Bay did direct 13 Hours,
Mm-hmm.
which John Krasinski starred in,
True.
and recently it kind of shows that John Krasinski can be more of a serious actor
For
opposed
sure.
to his more comedic stuff. But remember, I think you showed me this video of The Office. If
Yeah.
it was a quiet place.
Right, because there was an episode in The Office where basically the whole office was trying to be quiet for as long as possible for a game that they were doing. And so it just fit right into this whole premise. It was great. But yeah, that's a funny video.
Yeah. All right, so we're going to talk about spoilers right now. So if you do not want to be spoiled, just fast forward to this part of the review. But anyway, we're going to talk about the third act of the movie.
Mhm.
And I got to say that I'm pretty mixed about the third act for
Same.
two reasons. One is that the whole very unnecessary sacrifices cliche,
Mm-hmm.
where it's like, there was no need to do that, okay? And you could have just thrown the pitch axe at him, and that would pretty much be a better choice to do. In fact, I was thinking maybe he dodged the monster because it can't see, and that sort
Right.
of thing. Like do like a ninja kind of sidestep,
Mm-hmm.
and then come back at the end. And I felt like that would have been a little bit more interesting, kind of playing with audiences' expectations. And then the second part at the end where they reveal what the weakness of the monsters are.
Which, by the
And
way, is super not complicated if you actually think about it. It's like, really? The whole world government couldn't put two and two together on this one?
I don't know, maybe, but who knows? Maybe they're secret in their safe bunkers. They're like, and that.
Population control. It was a false flag, folks. It was a false flag.
Young Turks probably got eaten because they wouldn't stop. They wouldn't shut up. All right, so but also the part where I felt like the way the movie ended was kind of like how we were worried how Assassin's Creed would end,
Mhm.
and feeling too soon where it ended off at.
Agreed.
And it's like, okay, it feels a little bit cliched with one character pumps the shotgun and then it ends basically. And I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, it's a bit cliche. And yeah, he could have showed us, taking on the other ones.
And on top of it, it just kind of felt like a girl power moment because it was it was the mom and the daughter, and the mom's like cocking the gun, and the daughter's like, yeah, I'm ready to, help take out these things. And it's just like, that was a bit cringy. I'm not going to lie.
And also, when Emily Blunt was holding that shotgun, it reminded me of her character in Looper.
Good point. Yeah, that's true. It's true.
Yeah, I'm not so sure if she also had kind of blonde hair in that movie. I highly doubt Emily Blunt's a natural blonde in real life. And that, I mean, it's kind of weird. You felt like she should have like kept her natural color hair.
I didn't think it looked that bad, personally, but
yeah, I don't think you think Emily Blunt looks that bad either.
I definitely, this to me was one of her much less sexualized roles, though, because of
Was the part that she was like bending over in her sundress, and I was saying to myself, Michael Bay probably had something to do with that part. And of course, there's got to be fireworks right here.
True.
For this part. Yeah, I'm totally doing that.
Really happened. Yes. No, it did actually kind of make sense for the story because of sound, but
yeah, it's a pretty creative thing and pretty smart thing to do.
It's a funny thing we can't help but point out, though.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But there was a part in the movie at the beginning where I think you were inappropriately laughing when this one character got killed by the creature monsters.
With the little kid?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, I was
get wrecked. You're like,
I was so done with that kid because they were establishing, hey little shit, don't put the batteries in the thing because it's gonna make noise. The rocket, the toy rocket that they found.
Well, a toy spaceship,
right? And guess what he does? Like in the middle of a clear opening where the whole world is out to see and possibly get him. He just plugs those suckers in, and then something, wha-bam, just takes him.
I thought I thought that the sister gave him the rocket and also the batteries as well. So it's kind of also really her fault.
I guess so, but like, I don't know. I know we're supposed to feel something for that kid, but I found myself going, good. Dead weight has been removed from the situation. So
basically, natural selection, Darwin.
Exactly. That's exactly how I felt about it. Like, moving on, and realistically, I mean, on the minds of the characters and probably the moms watching. If that was my baby, I wouldn't know what to do. Yeah, for me, I was just like, screw that kid. Who cares? Moving on.
Pretty bad.
Yeah, but.
Yeah,
keeping it 100.
Kind of like the Rotten Tomatoes score for this movie.
Yeah. Again, until they realized, wait, Michael Bay produced it? Time to shitbag it.
Yeah, I mean, alright, so I think we're kind of done with spoilers and that, but I was kind of worried going into this movie because the movie kind of was similar to Get Out, not only because of the fact that it was directed by a guy who's usually associated with comedy, but also of its really ridiculously high score on Rotten Tomatoes. But I think that the Rotten Tomatoes score is obviously overexploited nowadays and is pretty misleading.
For sure. That is true. I don't necessarily agree overall with the comparison to Get Out. Like, I get what you're saying with a comedy-related actor making the film and it getting a high score on Rotten Tomatoes, but to me there's clearly overall less identity politics behind this one, especially with the fact that Michael Bay is involved. Like, yeah. Even if that was an aspect, that would be like
even though kind of the ending may have been a little bit identity politics.
Sure, yeah, no, I get you there. And saying that, I guess, including the actual deaf girl, like Tyler was saying, that I guess could be seen as one, but to me, it seemed authentic, and because it was authentic, and I didn't think it was that objectionable. There were some points in the story where I definitely thought, I mean, did we really need to do it that way? Where I probably would have changed it. And talking about earlier how we wish there was a bit of closure, and there wasn't at the very ending. It was kind of just that almost roll credits, and it's just like,
Yeah, I remember. I think if I ever make a top 10 list of movies I liked but I didn't like the endings to, this might be on there.
yeah, I kind of feel the same way about it because I definitely found myself liking this one. It's definitely one of the top three I've seen so far this year. I haven't seen Ready Player One, however, so that may change. But in any case, like it I overall did like it, but there were a couple things that I just found a bit questionable in the decisions. So,
Okay. So anyway, what would you give this movie, Steven?
well, what would I give this movie? I would again, it was solid. The story was pretty good. I'm gonna disagree a bit with Tyler in terms of the pacing. I felt that the pacing in the middle was actually a bit questionable, and it picked up a bit towards the end, which was good. But the payoff was a little questionable, and some of the like unnecessary sacrifices. I definitely get what he's getting at, and there's without spoiling it, there's some level at least of okay, well maybe the character who could have done something um, didn't realize it until the very end, even though we as the audience did. But at the same time, it's still worth you know, pointing out those things to criticize, um, just based on their presentation in the order that they were presented. So I definitely like this. It's one of John Krasinski's best recent roles for sure, and I'll be curious to see what he releases in the future. And good job producing this one, Michael Bay. Like you've had some misses with some of your producing with like horror movies of like
The Purge.
I forgot he did The Purge, but like I was talking about like the Friday the 13th and the Nightmare on Elm Street one.
Well, at least
Um,
Friday the 13th has some good topless scenes.
True. But in any case, this is definitely, I would argue, probably the best of any of those that he's helped produce. So, but with that in mind, that's kind of a lot of babble. I feel that for a lot of reasons, it was good. It wasn't perfect, but it was fun and worth seeing. And it falls in the ballpark to me between an 83 and an 85%.
Okay. Now, I remember saying about the Middle Dragon, I felt like the third act of the movie, in a way, when, things are really going down and hitting the fan, I felt like in a way that was a little bit stretched in that, and I kind of got flashbacks to the movie Signs because of being in the farm and these alien creatures, in a way, going through the fields and that,
For sure.
especially at nighttime. And I really like how the fact that the two leads in the movie and also the kids as well were pretty good as actors. I really love the original setup for the movie. It kind of shows that hey, original movies can be successful and pretty good.
For sure.
In a day and age where it seems like everything is just copy and pasting someone else's idea
Mm-hmm.
and that. And also, there were a lot of good scares in this movie, and it definitely did feel like, oh, this is scary in that, and they were good scares. I mean, there were some jump scares, but they were pretty well done. I feel like the problems with this movie was well, not really the length necessarily, was kind of like parts of the third act with, unnecessary sacrifices as well as kind of ending a little bit too abruptly
Sure.
and kind of like, okay, what about that nail? And oh, I think you forgot to mention it. There's a part where the water is coming in.
Yeah, what
It's
was
like,
with that?
yeah, where did the water come from? And when he saw that character's backpack, I was assuming that maybe it was a plot twist, like someone else like wandered in
Mm-hmm.
and kind of did something or whatever, which I felt like that'd be interesting. Maybe be related to that old couple
Yeah.
or something like that. But anyway, this is definitely one of the best horror movies I've seen this decade alone. I would put it up there with possibly the Babadook and It Follows. I mean,
Okay.
I think it's definitely better than Get Out, which I think Get Out is overrated
Hmm.
as a movie, mainly with the ridiculous, reception it's gotten and with all the awards and that. And, besides being winning some and also being nominated for a lot. But anyway, I would give A Quiet Place about 3 stars out of 4.
Okay, yeah, I think that's fair. I'm um I'm not quite sure how I feel about gauging it in terms of Get Out, but overall I think it's probably relatively equivalent. In a lot of ways, it may be a little bit less good, but I'm talking dimes on the dollar in terms of like quality difference. So, but yeah, like this was definitely worth it, I think, and
But there weren't like obvious big continuity errors,
no, not.
and there weren't like
No.
clashes with the tone.
Mm-hmm.
Like Get Out kind of clashed in tone of like, okay, we're being all serious horror or being kind of tongue-in-cheek comedy
True,
at times.
true.
I mean, one movie that really did it a lot worse than Get Out was The Spirit,
Mm-hmm.
with that one with Frank Miller directed, where it's like, okay, do you want to be a fun movie or do you want to be I mean, the movie's the character of the Spirit is like really fun and kind of tongue-in-cheek,
Mm-hmm.
but Frank Miller was obviously the wrong choice for this.
Right.
Okay, that'd be like the equivalent of Steven Spielberg having to direct something like super dark and serious. Well, maybe except Schindler's List, but know what I'm trying to get at here.
Yeah, like an upbeat. You would choose him for something more mainstream and upbeat than something
And-
dark, gritty, and
Yeah, and
with
fun.
consequence. So
Yeah, trying to get like Stanley Kubrick to direct like one of the Hangover movies.
yeah, or like Adventures of Tintin or something. Like that would just be a what? What are you doing? Choice.
Yeah.
So
All right, so this is Tyler from Anchor Reviews.
and Steven from Steven Lawson Studios.
And we hope you enjoyed this episode of After the Credits on Anchor Reviews. And we hope to make a lot more in the future. Please like and subscribe, and please excuse myself because I kind of sound a little bit like Michael Cintera.
Very true. Very true. Bye.